This episode of the Oh Hi Stories podcast is brought to you by Orlo. From social media management and archiving to AI insights and customer service management, Orlo helps teams streamline communications, stay responsive, and build public trust, whether it's crisis comms or everyday updates. Learn more at orlo.tech. Oh hi, I'm Dana Berchman. Welcome to Oh Hi Stories. With the TS12 announcement blowing up our feeds and group chats and basically the entire pop culture universe, there was only one person I could call, my sister. She's not just my partner in all things Taylor, she's a world-class Swiftie with a career in marketing, which means she fully gets and appreciates the absolute genius that is Taylor Swift. So whether you're here for the Easter eggs, obsessing over the set list, or just living for the thrill of the next album drop, get ready for it. So, since today's guest is extra special, I knew she deserved an extra special introduction, Jason Kelce style. As a Division I basketball player at the University of Denver, she played in 108 games, scored 463 points, grabbed 133 rebounds, dishing out 106 assists with 60 steals. She hit 123 career three-pointers, ranking 5th in school history. But before that, in her senior year at Mesquite High School in Gilbert, Arizona, she drained 99 three-pointers in a single season. Yes. She holds a bachelor's degree in business marketing from the University of Denver and her master's degree from Arizona State. Go Devils. She was born 8 years after me, despite our mother promising I'd be an only child. She's now the proud mom of my adorable niece and nephew, Miller and Max, and an amazing aunt to my 2 daughters. And she just happens to be the other biggest Taylor Swift fan I know. She was also the 6th grade band student of the year at Islands Elementary.
What?
And her senior college quote was, "Please pass the rolls from father of the bride. Please welcome my very special guest, my sister, the one and only Andie Mason Figlin."
Woo! Let's go. What
Yes.
an intro. Thank you. I think you just had an out-of-body experience. Your soul left your body physically during that.
Yes. I was trying to channel my inner Jason Kelce, which is why I asked you to do this, and you so graciously said yes, was because, one, I've never had you as a guest on my podcast, and I think I've been podcasting even at Gilbert for like 10 years now, so that's a crime. And 2, we've always talked about having a sisters podcast, so if this takes off, this could be our future career, life, job. Wouldn't be so shabby. But mostly we decided to do this because Taylor Swift has just announced her 12th album. And I can't think of 2 better people to unpack from a marketing perspective what she's always done in her career. But I think specifically this week with the rollout of her new album, the podcast she appeared on yesterday, I just think that you and I are both in this marketing world for our work, and maybe it's also because we're gigantic Taylor Swift fans, but no one does it better. Like, she is a marketing genius. I think she's a genius, period, but a real marketing genius.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. Everything she does is so methodical, so well thought out. Yesterday, I was thinking she has managed to captivate the attention of the entire world. And while we're all supposed to be sitting here working, instead, we're refreshing our browsers every 5 seconds to see what she's going to do next. And so she has just done an amazing job at being able to always control the narrative around her brand and her story, which is just incredibly impressive.
We've never heard her talk this much.
No.
I mean, you and I are both talkers. And for me specifically, I feel like talking is a lot of part of what I do. And we just haven't heard that from her. We've always wanted that. But then she talked at us straight for 2 hours on this podcast. And the first thing out of my mouth when it ended was, oh my God, what if we never hear from her again like that? What if that's all we get or the most we ever get out of her? And so I hung on every word because, again, she's someone I have loved and adored for as long as I can remember. But I always wanted to see her in a situation like that, to hear her, to see her mannerisms, her banter, to know her sense of humor. I thought it was so impressive. And like you said, she's just so meticulous. I know that everything she does is so intentional, but she's so smart. all of it. It's just amazing. And then I think the other thing that's really interesting for me at this point in my life, like being a business owner and trying to drive a brand and a business and trying to do this. Oh, Frankie. And and Andie's a new dog owner. This is also very exciting, a new dog mom. Mm-hmm. And I think starting a new business and doing this myself, I was so taken aback when she said she sent her mother and her brother to get her master's back and to go do that deal. She's like, I didn't send lawyers. And I think that to me was so inspirational because we're someone, I think we have a really close knit family, and you and I have we've grown up that way. We're very close with our parents and our children and have that like family life that's so ingrained. And I can totally see us doing something like that, sending mom to drive this deal, and guaranteed she'd come out with a win for us. And so I just thought like that really touched me, like that as huge of a star as she is, to still make it feel so small and relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that point up too, because I was actually talking to my husband, JJ, last night. And that was the first thing I actually said to him was, you have to hear this story about how she sent her mom and her brother. And you could tell that she had been through the ringer and this roller coaster of emotions of decades trying to get her music back and sending them into the room. It's just like she always does the right thing. Mm-hmm. And it's just absolutely mind blowing that I was really speechless watching her yesterday, and just the way that she can command the attention. Also, what I was surprised about too is like she is a talker. I did not really see her as someone that was like wheeling and dealing, but like Jason, I felt couldn't get a word in edgewise either. It was just constant learning to talk. And it was almost like, well, you're always hidden. It doesn't seem like you want to come out and talk. But once you let her loose yesterday, she didn't want to stop talking. And I found that very fascinating too.
Yeah. Travis just stared at her in awe. Like it was just, and I bet you that's like a large dynamic of their relationship. And it was so cute to see. She renders him speechless, and it's adorable because we hear from him. I'm a fan of the New Heights podcast, so I listen to that all the time. I think you do too. And so I'm used to like hearing him and hearing his and Jason's banter, but you're right. She controlled the whole conversation. And there were no like big unsaid things. It wasn't like at the end of it, it felt like they let her go, that they weren't going to cut her off or put her in a box. They were just going to be like, here. And it was her first podcast she'd ever done. That was amazing too. That to me is like, how could that be when podcasting is such a thing and it has been such a thing? And she is a world maker. She's made our culture, and it's so incredible to me. And I thought it was also really cool how she said she didn't really feel that way until the Eras tour. Yeah. Where she was like, it wasn't until the Eras tour that I felt like, okay, I've done it, or I've arrived. Or that's also super inspirational of someone of her success level to not feel like it's enough, which I think is something as women and mothers we can all relate to. Even in points in our career, it seems like we get to a point, but there always seems to be, we need more, or there's something bigger and better. And I don't know if that ever ends or goes away, but I thought I was really struck by her saying that too.
Yeah, I think she says that. And at the same time, I'm sure she's already thinking of like, how can I do more from here too? Mm-hmm. Going back to her master's too, I think it's really interesting that she continues to fight also for other people. And so when she explained in detail how the master's works and what does it mean, and it's like the imagery and it's the lyrics and it's the music videos and it's all of these things. And forever she was like, artists just aren't aware. And she was like, it wasn't written in my contract that I couldn't re-record my masters because people just didn't do that and didn't think to do it. And also she was like, and no one knew that how petty I was, but clearly I am. But I think I was emotional just hearing that she wants to be such an advocate for other people who aren't aware. And I think not only is it incredibly amazing that she was able to get her master's back, but I think just the way in which she's leading and carving a path for people to come behind her. And she's always done that. Even thanking Maren Morris and Chris Stapleton to be like, thanks for coming to re-record with me. Are you kidding me? These people probably were like we will stop and do anything for you. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's another piece of her. It was funny too. I appreciate this because when you and I both see things like in our parents that we see, and I really loved how she talked about her dad as being this like social being who like makes friends wherever he goes and keeps his friends and does whatever. And I can totally see her being that way. She just seems like someone, I say this a lot. I know you do too, because I know I've said this where I was like, why can't we just be friends with her? I don't understand. Like, I said it to Scott yesterday. I said to my husband, why can't we just be friends? Feel like we are. It was interesting that she described her dad that way when I think the world sees her that way as the friend to everyone. When she said he can have a 5-minute conversation with them 30 years ago and he'll still be talking to them once a week. And I thought, interesting, because that's how she makes us feel.
Yeah.
And she's so relatable and she's so always in touch with what's going on in the world, what the culture is, even the sourdough bread baking conversation. And again, to people who have not heard this podcast, you're going to be like, what is this? But the sourdough bread, how many of us follow people that are obsessively baking sourdough bread? I didn't know Taylor Swift was, but now I'm going to have to.
It sounds like from what she said is she's not a big internet person and she doesn't sit on social media. And that is mind blowing to me too, just because of the way that she frames her campaigns, let's call them, of these like big announcements. Is you would think she's so into, and it sounds like she's like, no. Like, I don't go on social media. I don't want to see it. And I don't blame her. But I found that interesting as well. She's not really online. But the best part was that she was like, but if you're baking bread, I've probably been on your website to look at your recipes.
Absolutely.
And Travis goes, oh, can you imagine the amount of people that are probably like, oh my God, has she been on my website? And he was like, and she probably has, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. Isn't that so interesting? I thought she made an interesting point about turning off comments too, because she was saying with the social media world. And I loved what she said about you should think of your energy as expensive, as if it's a luxury item and not everyone can afford it. That like stuck with me so much. And she was also talking about, hey, I turned my comments off, which I didn't really realize, but I think she turned her comments off years ago before anybody was turning their comments off. And that is probably helpful for her, right? Is that I don't need to live in the comments. And I remember even from an elected official's perspective, like working with a mayor who like we would live in the comments. The comments guided what people thought about things. And then there was this shift and suddenly like the comments were not doing us any good. They weren't telling us anything we didn't already know. In fact, they were nasty and angry and people that didn't want to take the time to call or come to a meeting or write an email, but they would go online and say something nasty. And it was like, now I just ignore them. And it used to be you lived in them for insight, right? That's how we all did. That's how the world operated. So once again, she was a trendsetter ahead of the time of, hey, I'm pushing information that she sees the power of social media to amplify her work and tell her story, no doubt. I think when she posted the new album cover and the imagery, I think it had 1.6 million likes in minutes. Like it had over 6 million by the time the podcast was over.
It's
miraculous. And they had 1.3 million people watching live and it crashed at the end. They couldn't sustain it. And so the podcast ended abruptly. And you think about the ways she's able to reach people with art, with her storytelling. And really at the core of what you and I both do and the core of my company, she inspired the name of my company. Obviously, people always ask me, where'd you get Oh Hi from? I'm like, that's her greeting. That's Taylor Swift's greeting when she comes out on stage, which we also have to talk about. I'm a 5-time Eras Tour attendee. And I loved all of my experiences at the Eras Tour, but my absolute favorite was with you, where you have to tell this debacle story of you were a product of the Ticketmaster fail. And then like they came back to get you, gave you this magical code, and we were suddenly on the floor with Taylor Swift.
Yeah. And I just like, I think we, from our parents teaching us, like we always do the right thing. And so in these moments, you're like, come on, like the best thing's going to happen to me. And like, it just doesn't happen. And so when you're sitting in the queue on Ticketmaster and it's like you have 17 minutes left and then the website crashes and you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm not getting tickets.
Yeah.
And this is her always doing the right thing again. And knowing that people, okay, there's a ton of people who didn't get tickets. You happen to actually get tickets to LA.
Okay, all credit to Scott. He was one of the few people who battled it out for 9+ hours and eventually didn't get tickets where we were, which is Arizona, but got LA tickets where you are, and 6 of them at literally less than $100 a pop. And yeah, that was amazing. And yes, he was lucky. And so you knew at that point, like we were at least going to get to go. But then it was a few weeks later and you got this email.
I get an email from Ticketmaster and it's, hey, we're so sorry that you didn't get tickets because the system crashed. You have 3 options in different price ranges. Like just submit what price range you want. And there's a chance that you could get 2 tickets. And I panicked and the biggest price range was like $500 to $1,000, which now looking back at it, at what you could resell these tickets for was like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
I called JJ. I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, well, you obviously put it in for the 500 to 1,000. And I'm like, okay, put it in. And I'm like, this is never, ever going to play out. And I remember within an hour, I got an email that was like, here's your 2 tickets. And I remember sitting here and I pulled up the tickets and I was like, row 2? What? And I don't think it was even 2. It was like a letter or something. And I'm thinking this seems like I'm in the front. I don't know. So I pulled up the stage at SoFi and sure enough, dead center of the stage, 2nd row, without a doubt, it was always you that was coming with me.
We had the best night of our lives.
Especially because I left my family in Cabo to fly to meet you to go to this.
Who leaves their vacation in Mexico to come to see Taylor Swift near their house? We do. This is how we do it. Yep. And oh my God, it was so worth it. We were so close. We could reach out and touch her. We saw my former coworker, Savannah Guthrie. That was so fun to see her. She was in the VIP tent and the people around us. Like it was just, you always meet the most amazing people and she curates these experiences. That was fun to hear her talk about her perspective last night of looking out and really feeling connected to the experiences people were having. And it was so true. Every time I went 5 times, which it's crazy, but I still didn't feel like it was enough. And I look back and every time was a different, special, amazing experience. You wait for those surprise songs and you're wondering what they're going to be. And how did she continue to do that? But then when it was over, and this is one thing that I wonder if she knows, because this was interesting to hear her say, like, you could tell how relieved she was when it was over because how taxing it was on her body. And I wanted to like scream. Do you know how depressed we've been like ever since this ended last December? Like we are dying without you, but she's living her best life, making sourdough and knitting,
looking at otters on Instagram, which is something we should definitely talk about at some point.
Oh my God. They're going to get a pet otter and taking care of her aging parents. Cause like you and I both, we have 75-year-old parents who are, probably like her mother. Our mother probably could use a new knee.
Or 2. Yep.
Or 2. Mm-hmm. And so like her talking about that experience, I felt was also so relatable and like how this stage of life that no one really warns you about, which is for me, your kids are a little younger. Your youngest just started kindergarten today. And I'm like thinking about mine going off to college and it's this like really weird like phase of life. And I think her writing, regardless, even though she's like your age and she's 10 years younger than me, it's just always so relatable. And she's, like I said, she's always got her finger on that pulse of what's happening in life. And I wondered though, when she said that, like as if she's been living her best life since the tour ended, I was like, oh damn, we aren't. We're like totally depressed.
No, I know. And that's why I think 2025 certainly hasn't been easy for a lot of people, but it's those moments. And I'm going through an acquisition with my company right now. And there are people who are very upset and sad about this transition, and rightfully so. And I've watched them go through a roller coaster of emotions in the last 2 weeks as well. and they're all Swifties. And I just saw life back in them. Is like, oh my gosh, what's the countdown? What are we going to do? And like, it's interesting because for someone who's not on social media at Taylor, and the whole like turning off at the comments, she doesn't do it for herself. She literally does it for her fans. And so she's like, I don't care. I'm putting it out there for you all because I know how much you appreciate it. And that's why watching her interview on Jimmy Fallon that reappeared from a couple of years ago about dropping the Easter eggs and like how far she's planning out is I do these Easter eggs and I didn't know if the fans wanted to come along for my psychotic ride, but here we are. And it gives people something to look forward to. It gives people a break. And she's an entertainer. That's truly what she is.
You talk about the year you lived through the fires. Obviously, you were directly impacted. Your kid's school was lost. You had your mother-in-law living with you for months and who lost her home, and lots of other friends and family and classmates and other things. That was January 7th. That was not a great way at all to start the year. And you're so right about looking for bright spots and what that looks like. And I think it's so interesting too in the work that I do is using the fire and all of the things that went terribly wrong when it came to communicating, especially from the city side. And I know you guys know this firsthand, what a disaster it was. And it's funny because you said to me a few weeks ago, oh my God, they need you to figure out how, this is what I've always been focused on is, how to communicate. Not even the best communication, I don't believe could have changed a lot of the circumstances that happened. Because we are living in climate change and a very scary world of that night's winds and just the whole series of things that would have had to go right to avoid that. But however, did it need to be what it was? Like, could it have been better? I know when your mother-in-law left her house, she thought she'd be back that night. Like no one expected or no one was communicated with. And this is such an important way. And I think the way that Taylor Swift markets to grab attention, to get people's attention. You saw all these brands jump on everything she was doing. I really wish that government organizations and those in the public sector would look at her and these brands and the way that we want to be communicated. Listen, you and I are the target audience, right? How do we want to be communicated with? If there was a fire, how would you want to be told? A text message on your phone. That's how you're living your life, right? And so I think that there's so much to be learned from obviously tragic events like the fires. It's really unfortunate that we don't learn faster in this space, but there's so much to be learned from people like her who show us how to move a culture, move a brand. How many logos did you see in the last 48 hours that were transformed to match her album?
That's
an album cover.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say is like, she has the biggest global brands who are like, oh, we'll follow you. What is she doing? Because she's turned her fans into co-marketers. She's turned brands into co-marketers. It's pretty incredible just from like a PR standpoint, like what she's been able to do. I mean, she has Swifties that are like running their own PR machines, decoding clues, sharing theories, creating content, logos. Like it's mind blowing the way in which these brands can just, all right, we're on board. We'll do it because we know everyone will follow us too, because everyone's following her.
The Easter eggs that you brought up, so true, that she's planning most of these things 3 years in advance. And I'm sure you can too, think of how many strategic planning meetings you've sat in over the course of your career to make a 5-year plan and something that would like be dead on the vine and obsolete within a year and that would never come to fruition. But imagine if you did it creatively in a way that you could anticipate the future and understand how to tease what is to come, which we all know is AI and everything that's happening in our world right now, the way that people want to be communicated with and how much that's changing. Like, it's really not that difficult to imagine how to creatively market and think ahead and plan. And yet although some brands are like taking her lead and figuring this out, I would argue that there's still so many opportunities, especially in the government space, for people to be like thinking outside of the box. And we did a Taylor Swift parody video years ago for her 22 video. We were like really hoping, like we tagged her everywhere at the time. She wasn't that big then. So
because you guys had taken off with Justin Timberlake's Can't Stop the Feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
so I was like, we got Taylor. We got it in the bag. No, wishful thinking. But we tried our very best.
Yeah.
But that's how inspiring she is. And I think of our whole lifetime, she is I think she's the most powerful woman in the world. But I think culturally and without even meaning to, she now understands the weight of how she drives our happiness. I don't know. I said to you, I'm like, why do we feel so happy yesterday? I sent you a text. I was like, is this crazy that we're just why she just brings us joy and happiness? Like, what's going on? What's wrong with us?
Yeah. Like I made a comment before this started of, are people going to watch this and be like, are these two okay? Do they have anything else going
we're
on
definitely
in your
not.
life? Are they okay? And it's no, we're not. But at the same time, yeah, we're perfectly normal. And to go back to the point we just talked about is sometimes people just want to forget about things that are happening in life. And like, she just gives you that breather of being able to just stop and be like, oh my God, I'm just going to go have fun and watch this podcast for an hour and 45 minutes and just enjoy it. I think it's just refreshing to have that break. And she's always just done such a great job at it.
Yeah. And teasing things so we have something to look forward to, because everybody always wants something to look forward to. I know. I think in that same vein of her, and I always wonder, because I think so much about like risk taking or the fear holding you back and not doing things or not putting yourself out there or trying things. My whole life, I have said since I was a child that I wanted to make a country music video. This has like always been like my ultimate goal and dream. Yeah. And it was funny because when she talked about video making, about where she gets to enjoy what she does is in that like storytelling piece. And I so can understand that like all of the work has delivered her the opportunity to get to go and be creative. And like her videos are insane. Like they are, I look forward to that just as much as everything else, because I know like she's a cinematographer. She's got the visual for the art. Like she knows very clearly what she wants and how what she writes translates to that medium. And that's always been the work that I do. And I'm always thinking about that. I don't have the luxury to get to live that dream. I don't get to I probably will never get to. I'm not going to ever say never, but unless there's some budding up and coming country artists out there listening.
There you go. There you go. There it is.
Call me. But I really think about that. And like she gets to do that. And she has all the creative control, which is what she talked about. Which I've been in a situation, and I think you do too, when you work for a corporate, you work for a company, like your hands get tied a lot. I was in a situation where I had a lot of creative control and then I suddenly didn't. And that was not fun anymore. It is not fun to work in a place, especially in a marketing world, where you can't take a risk, you can't try new things, you can't do things that are cool and hip, which I always say, like tack on to the trends. Go do what's resonating with people. Like, why wouldn't you? And I think that's where so much inspiration from her has come, like filtering into our lives and our worlds. And I think about that in my work is, again, what would Taylor do? What would she be doing? Or how could I push that boundary? And you don't always get the luxury to do that in this line of work. When you operate inside of a box, or you don't have people around you, a team that can bring ideas to life or help you to do that. But she's done exactly all of those things. Built a team that I actually said, I'm like, can't I just go work for her? Can't we just be friends and work for her? Don't you just want to be in her orbit and see how that operation runs? And you got to meet one of her dancers in the airport.
I did.
One day.
Yes.
That's the closest maybe we'll get.
Miller, my daughter, reminds me of that every day when she's like, have you met any famous people? We met the Taylor Swift backup dancer in the airport in Cabo. Yes.
Oh, that is the best. But people that work for her rave about it. It touches all the things, like creating a culture that's like creative and amazing. Really, it's like the dream world, right?
Totally. It's interesting that you bring this up because as the build up was coming and we're sitting there with the countdowns and the doors are appearing and the other doors moving and then everyone's sitting on Instagram and TikTok with their theories. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, is it just her that sits in this room and thinks up these stories and like the strategy in her head? Like who is with her at this table? When she's okay, in 3 years, I'm going to do the life of a showgirl. And this is how it's going to go. And I'm going to trickle out like these little Easter eggs. And it's like, how do you even think of these types of things? And I think that is like, it's like her life is just one big story. And it's like, she just loves to tell this. And it's just fascinating to me. And I die to know who's sitting with her that is like having these ideas with her.
Maybe or is it her mom and her brother?
Maybe.
Like I sometimes imagine this, maybe it isn't, because you also think like she's so protective over her work and she has to keep probably a pretty tight circle, but all those people that have to bring this stuff to life. But I thought the same thing because she called out like these two particular producers that she hadn't worked with in 7 years. And she's, I didn't know if they were busy or whatever. And I'm thinking, really? They get a call from you? Yeah. I think they're going to make it work. But I think it is so true. That is one thing. Like I thought she covered everything, but now that you're saying that, I really feel like that's one missing thing that we really didn't get to find out. What's your process? Like that would be so interesting. And what does your team look like? What is that dynamic? And what do you do? Do you write it down? I remember one of her songwriting tricks was just like the stuff that she'd put in notes in her phone, like in her phone notes. Yeah. And does she just like jot these ideas down? Does she record voice memos? Does she call someone? What happens? Like do those four? And again, from a marketer's perspective, maybe the rest of the world wouldn't be so interested in that. But to me, that's something that I would love to know more about. So if someone knows her and is listening and can get this to her and get us an answer, we would appreciate it.
Totally. It is really fascinating how she can think so far ahead too, right? Yeah. And but so much can change in that time, but it's something that she capitalizes on so well. And I think too, to bring it back to marketing and just like her fan base being like her co-marketers for her, I think for someone who spends every day trying to market my product that I'm supporting is we always say like our audience is the best marketing tool, because if your audience can spread the message for you, that's free marketing right there. And just think of how she's leveraging that from her audience, but also from these brands that we just discussed too. And I think that's one thing that I really admire from her from like an actual business marketing perspective is like the best marketing is when your audience can spread the message for you. And she completely capitalized on that too, which is just remarkable.
And that's another thing I think government and cities get wrong. Your residents are exactly that. They are your customer. They are the people that amplify. You need to keep them happy. You need to understand what they want. You need to give them what they want. And then they'll go tell everyone else. And I don't understand why a lot of people in local government especially can't seem to understand that piece of this resident engagement. But hopefully if people are listening, they can say, oh yeah, like all of these ideas transfer easily from the private sector space into this. And you're exactly right. It is. It's just a masterclass in all things, like how we learn to tell a story, how we engage with people, how you can reinvent yourself at different stages of your life and your career. It's just so inspirational. I can't wait for this new album. Now we have to figure out where this tour is going to be. My bet might be on the Sphere in Vegas. I'm thinking. I don't know.
So, but then that just gives me anxiety because there's just a limited amount of seats there. So what are we going to do?
I looked it up. 18,000 and then 2,000 more maybe for standing room only. So 20,000 max. Times how many shows would she do there? Like not that many. And so, I don't know. But
how does
Super Bowl,
this girl have the stamina to go on a tour like this for over a year and then just drop another album because everyone's going to expect her to go and perform somewhere?
I know.
It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, there's two other things that like really caught my attention, and that was the toe separators that she uses.
Yes. What are those? I need those immediately. I don't know what they are.
AJ uses them. My husband all the time. He loves them. They're very strange. I don't know. They're supposed to help with like blood flow and circulation. Not sure, but I bet toe separators are like flying off the market today.
100%.
Never boomed more. And then I just need to get back to this otter because a meme that I saw this morning was that I hope that in my next life, I come back as an otter that is adopted by Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Absolutely. I think that this is feasible, reasonable. It's so funny. An otter of all things. And it sounds like she was fully supportive of this idea that he wants to have this pet otter and he's obsessed with it. Oh my God, can you imagine? There's people probably like reaching out, trying to sell him otters. Can't even imagine.
I actually thought to myself while they were having that conversation, I was like, for someone with her ability and access, I'm shocked she hasn't bought him an otter yet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Goes into taking care of an otter. Is it salt water? Is it? I don't know.
I know. It's like the most fascinating thing. Like, and it just came out of left field. And between that and her like baking obsessions, and then also him playing video games and her interrupting him and him taking off his headset and telling people like, hold on, I gotta go.
Yeah, which is he 13? I don't know. Like
maybe. And she seems to be okay with it. And so if she's okay with it, we're okay with it.
Yeah. Totally.
But all you men out there, don't get any ideas about going and sitting on your
man cave
consoles.
With your door shut to talk to your friends about, what does she say? Grand Theft Auto? Is that what they're playing?
Oh my God.
High school song?
Yes. Oh my God. The best. This was so fun. I love you. This is the best. What a dream to get to chat with my sister on my podcast, my idol and my very best friend. And like I said, the other biggest Swiftie I know. So I love you and thank you for doing this. And we'll do part 2 when the album comes out.
Absolutely. I love you. Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I love doing this.
So fun. Love you. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Oh Hi Stories podcast. Please leave us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. And visit our website at ohicommunications.com.